know, the thing about TV, as I've often said here on the show, chums, is the behind the scenes fun. That, of course, if you're watching it every day, you don't necessarily pick up on what's going on. You know, I love the way that you see these presenters smiling at each other, as I've often said. And it's all, you know, oh, we're all a family. And you think, yes, a family of horrors. Trust me, nobody truly gets on because they're all after the limelight. Now, you might say, oh, Neil, you work in that game. Yes, but as I've said, I come from a more theatrical background. And if you've got some talent, whether you can sing, dance, act, entertain, you're not too bothered about sitting there just reading an auto cue. You know, it's a little bit dry, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why I enjoy my time on television, because when you're sitting there with all of those divas that desperately want the limelight, it's a lot of fun. But what really made me smile this week was a major US American TV network, ABC, now owned by Disney, right? And one of the biggest, if you like, channels, you know, corporations in American history. There you have NBC, ABC. They were the big ones, and I've been lucky enough to work for both. But what I found fascinating was the fact that after 26 years, ABC TV has now moved out of their official studios in the wonderful place that is Times Square in the heart of New York City. Now, I've been lucky enough to be there and be hosted and all that sort of stuff. And it was a thrilling studio, you know, the sort of thing. You've got a real vibe about being in one of the most exciting cities in the world. And, you know, the audience could peer through the windows. And on the days that I was there, they used to do live performances and have an audience in. It was just great. Well, now apparently all the stars are thrilled to be moving out of Times Square. Now, their veneers might say it, but their eyes don't. Let me explain. Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for your time today. Lovely to have your company. And as ever, I know we're still rolling on with the sweet things. You all know your stuff, don't you? Space stuff, I forgot about that. Well, do you remember that? It used to pop in your mouth, didn't it? And then you kind of wondered if you'd have any teeth left. And there was orange and black currant. All of those things, when you think, just really made your teeth look bad, didn't they? But nobody bothered about it then, did they? Nobody said you can't have those fruit salad sweets because, you know, you'll be hypersensitive or all that sort of stuff. You just ate them and hope for the best. It's lovely reading your memories though. You know, the things that I do find funny is the fact that, you know, I was saying to someone recently about there's nothing like a crumble and custard. And they said, what's a crumble? Somebody else said, what's custard? Makes you feel old. But you go round the supermarket shelves, chums, and you can hardly find the traditional food that you and I used to grow up with. It's all really posh now, isn't it? You need an interpreter to work out exactly what you're buying. I've got no idea. I mean, I kind of think, where's the sausage and mash? You know what I'm saying? Let's get back to your story of the day. Yes, this man, George Stephanopoulos, I think he's called, if that's how you pronounce it, big anchor at ABC. He made a huge mistake on ABC, which cost that company, yes, anywhere between $15 million and $20 million. That's because they had to pay that to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Now, you would have thought this would have been career-ending. You know, really, I mean, can you imagine you're sitting there? Now, what was funny was, as I said, ABC have now moved out of their studio because, well, the story goes that they've got this brand new studio out, you know, downtown, right? So you leave Times Square to go downtown, right? And everybody's applauding and, oh, it's great and we're emotional and we can't believe it and, you know, it won't be the same, etc. The side eyes were all looking at George because the company is literally hemorrhaging money. It really is. You know, there are less and less people watching ABC News now more than ever because the mainstream media has become so untrusted. What's fascinating, I find, is the fact that they then made one of the anchors literally go to look out the new neighborhood where she was zip flying, going into local restaurants, whatever. Nothing can absolutely replace Times Square. Nobody, because they all want to keep a job, and as you can see them all here, veneers flying around, smiling away, or applauding, saying they're just one big happy family. Everybody, though, is looking at George because George has cost the company 15 to 20 million. All thanks, of course, with a spat which he lost with the President of the United States. Whichever way you look at it, perhaps if they'd have kept all of those millions, they might still be in Times Square. What do you think? And can you read between the lines? Neil Sean in the very heart of Yorkshire.